100 lands of the Eastern Barren Territory, Nanda Nation, East Sea. A dark golden-black wind condor spread its wings flying over the East Sea. It was not moving very fast. 100 lands of the Eastern Barren Territory, Nanda Nation, East Sea. A dark golden-black wind condor spread its wings flying over the East Sea. It was not moving very fast. There were two figures on the back of the black wind condor. It was Yi Futian and Hua Jiyu. Yi Futian had traveled all this way from the Barren State. First, he went to the Book Mountain in Eastern Barren Territory, and then he traveled to Nanda Nation and the Kangi Kingdom until finally, he passed through the academy in the East Sea before making his way to Qingzhou City. Of all the people that traveled together with them, there was now only him, Hua Jiyu, and the little condor. Back then, the little condor had also come from Qingzhou City, somewhere in the mountains. Thinking back all those years, it felt like centuries ago. They were in no hurry. Otherwise, with Yi Futian's current realm, they would be able to reach Qingzhou City with just one step. But he didn't do that. Instead, he chose to walk the roads of the olden days, enjoying the tranquility. Perhaps he wanted Hua Jiyu to experience it too. Hua Jiyu remained silent on their journey. Yi Futian had no way of knowing what she was thinking about, though he did try to pry into her thoughts. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, as soon as he saw Hua Jiyu, he had asked Feishue to keep an eye on her. He did not disclose Feishue's special talent to anyone from the outside. It would prove to be a great advantage in future training for core figures in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. According to Feishue, when Hua Jiyu was around him, her emotions were extremely calm, like water without waves. There was no love, hatred, nor any other emotions. This here is the East Sea. Back then, the master, the little condor, and I flew over the East Sea from Qingzhou City to go to Donghai City. And the first place we went to was the Nanda clan to take a look. At the time, you were cultivating at Donghai Academy. The sea breeze was caressing their faces as Yi Futian spoke softly. Along the way he said a lot. Hua Jiyu listened quietly, occasionally nodding, but rarely responding. I remember when I first saw you at Donghai Academy, and I also remember seeing you in Ziwei Palace last time. Yi Futian looked at Hua Jiyu's profile. Of course, she was still as beautiful now as she was then, but it was a different kind of beauty from before. The beauty that she had was youthful, a young girl's demeanor, like a fairy who was full of spirit. Still, I prefer the person you are now. Yi Futian smiled softly as he stretched out his hand and took Hua Jiyu's hand in his. Hua Jiyu's fingers trembled, and when she looked down, she saw Yi Futian's fingers clasping hers tightly. She raised her head and regarded Yi Futian with her beautiful eyes. Yi Futian's smile was extremely gentle. Jiyu, no matter what you look like, you will always be my wife. Hua Jiyu dodged his gaze. Instead of looking at Yi Futian, she kept her eyes forward, but she did not withdraw her hand, allowing Yi Futian to hold it tightly in his. Jiyu, after we see the master and the masteress, I will tell them that you were injured so severely that you temporarily lost your memory. You are the only child of the master and the masteress. You can understand that, can't you? Yi Futian asked with a smile. After seeing Jiyu, the master and the masteress would undoubtedly act very loving toward her. He worried that Jiyu would react strongly. This might hurt them even more. They had been so sad for so many years. Hua Jiyu gave the matter some thought. She nodded gently, and Yi Futian smiled with relief. Sit now. Yi Futian took Hua Jiyu and sat on Black Wind Condor's back. It was as if they had been transported back many years ago. Looking at the island in the distance, a smile gradually appeared on Yi Futian's face. Of all the many places that he had been, it was this small island city that brought him the most peace. Qingzhou City was so peaceful. It was as if it was apart from this world and asked nothing from it. In front of the cottage on the shore of Qingzhou Lake, some men were playing chess while the others gathered to watch. Among them, a middle-aged gentleman was dressed in all white. Although he was middle-aged, he was still elegant and handsome. If he were 20 years younger, he would have been an eye-catching character. Over the years, Hua Fenglio's greatest hobby had been chess. After so many years, he had developed the habit of enjoying peace and quiet and leisure. There were many people watching. At this moment, Two people walked behind the crowd and watched quietly, not disturbing anyone. However, the temperament of the two newcomers was so outstanding that the people around them couldn't help but look back at the two, thinking that they were a beautiful couple. Moreover, the man looked so young, but had a head of silver hair. And the woman, upon closer look, also appeared quite familiar. "Young lad, you know something about chess?" asked an old man next to him. Those who watched chess were usually long in the tooth. "A little." Futian smiled and nodded. "How is that guy's chess skill?" the old man asked, pointing at Fenglu. "Not very good," Futian said with a smile. "Wow, you sound very confident." The old man smiled. "Then, you should go in later and challenge him." No one had been able to beat this man in chess in the vicinity, and he didn't know if this young man was bragging or not. However, for once he would be happy to see someone beat that guy. "I have something else to attend to. Let's call it a day with this game," the person opposite Fenglu said. "Then begin mixing up the chess pieces." Everyone around them laughed, because they knew this guy had lost. "Lad, give it a try?" The old man next to him turned his head and looked at Futian, who was behind the crowd. "Sure." Futian smiled and nodded. "It's just that I dare not beat him." Previously, Fenglu's attention had been on the chess game. Over the years, he hadn't cared much about the world. He had even lost interest in cultivating. So he was a lot less vigilant much than he was before, and he rarely kept watch over his surroundings. But at this moment when he heard this voice, it sounded so familiar. Lifting his head, he looked at the man with the white hair in the crowd, a little stunned. Then he smiled and said, "Why come back when there is nothing for you to come back to?" "If I didn't come back to see you soon, I was afraid I would forget master," Futian joked. "What is forgotten shouldn't be remembered. I never cared much about you as a disciple, either." Fenglu appeared calm, but Futian knew that this had always been his demeanor. Futian was smiling, but his heart was full of pain. The master had more white hair on his head, and his temples were now gray. "Master, look who this is." Futian stepped aside. Behind the crowd, a beautiful figure stood there quietly. When Fenglu saw her, though he was sitting there quietly, the chess piece in his hand fell to the ground. He stood up unsteadily. His eyes reddened in an instant. "Jiyu." Fenglu walked out to the crowd and came to Jiyu. He stretched out his hand shakily. His fingertips touched her hair and her face. It was as if he wanted to see if she was real or not. His fingertips were also trembling. Futian felt even sadder when he saw this. He was sorry for Jiyu and master. Even though Jiyu was brought back, she was not completely herself just yet. "Jiyu, what's wrong?" Fenglu couldn't help but ask when he detected the strange look on Jiyu. "Master, Jiyu was injured badly. She has forgotten many things, but she will definitely recover in the future," Futian comforted him. That was all he could say for now. Fenglu was taken aback. "Amnesia?" There seemed to be a battle in his mind. Then he looked at Jiyu and said, "As long as you are still there." All these years, he often thought about his daughter. In his dreams, in his memory, that clever and beautiful figure was a pain that could not be erased. Although she had forgotten much, she came back alive. This was already a good outcome, wasn't it? "Jiyu, do you remember me?" Fenglu asked with a trembling voice. It was as if this was too extravagant of a hope. Jiyu looked at him quietly, and Fenglu understood. He retracted his hand, but found nowhere to place it. He was a little nervous. "Let's go home first and see your mother." Fenglu wanted to take her hand, but soon thought better of it and didn't. Jiyu nodded gently. On the way over, Futian had already prepared her so she would not reject the idea. "Let's go." Futian took Jiyu's hand and followed Fenglu as everyone around watched them leave. "Is he Fenglu's disciple?" an old man asked. Futian, at one time, had caused a great sensation in Qingzhou City, and he was still a legend in the hearts of many young people. "Ah, he's back. How handsome." The others who were around all nodded in agreement. Fenglu, Futian, and the others came to the hut. Before they even went in, Fenglu called out, "Wenin, come and see who is back." Before they even got to the inner courtyard, two figures emerged from inside the hut. Nanda Wenin had a smile on her face, But the moment she saw Yi Futian and Hua Jiyu, she could no longer move. Jiyu, Nanda Wanine spoke in a trembling voice, and in just an instant, tears were streaming down all over her face. Daddy, a bell-like voice called out. The figure next to Nanda Wanine went running toward Hua Fenglu, pulling on his hand. It was a little girl about 5 or 6 years of age. She was very beautiful. It was just as if she was from a fairy tale. Just one look at her would make anyone involuntarily adore her. Yi Futian was just about to address the masteress before the little girl took over his attention, and he could not look away. He seemed to see a shadow of Jiyu's former self on the little girl. Although the two had a great gap in age, they still bore a great resemblance to one another. The girl took Hua Fenglu's hand and raised her head to look at Yi Futian and Hua Jiyu. A childish voice came from her mouth. Daddy, she is so beautiful like a goddess. When Hua Fenglu heard this, he couldn't help the tears that streamed down his face. Yes, little did she know that was her sister, her very own sister. Yi Futian stooped down. His eyes were a little red as his hand gently touched the girl's face. His touches were so light. It was as if a little more power would hurt the girl. What's your name? Yi Futian asked softly, his voice extremely gentle. Huan Yinyu. The girl looked at Yi Futian curiously, as a childish voice came out of her small mouth. In just an instant, Yi Futian could no longer hold back the tears as they streamed down from his reddened eyes. Yinyu. What a beautiful name. But this name made his heart break. How did the master and the masteress get through these difficult years? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1720 Smiles. Chapter 1720 Smiles. Why are you crying? Ninu asked Yi Futian softly, as tears covered his face. She reached out with her little hand to wipe away the tears on his face. Because I'm so happy to see Ninu, and couldn't help crying out of happiness, Yi Futian said softly. Ninu nodded innocently, just like a porcelain doll. Her big eyes looked at Hua Jiyu. She asked, Fairy sister, what is your name? How come I feel like I know you? When she heard Hua Ninyu's childish remarks, Nanda Wanine burst into tears and walked toward the two of them. Hua Jiyu looked down at the little girl in front of her. Even though she had been indifferent until now, she stooped down at this moment and answered softly, My name is Hua Jiyu. Hua Jiyu. Ninyu repeated after her, then looked up at Hua Fenglu and Nanda Wanine, who were coming toward them. She looked at Hua Jiyu again and whispered, Are you my sister? Hua Jiyu looked at the girl with a strange look, then nodded gently, Ninyu opened her little arms, then stepped forward to hug Hua Jiyu gently around the neck. She said in a low voice, Sister, why did you just now come back to see me? Father and mother missed you so very much, and I have been wanting to see you. Hua Jiyu's arms stiffened a bit, but then she hugged the girl gently. Jiyu. Nanda Wanine came over and knelt down, hugging the two sisters tightly. Just now, Hua Fenglu had told her through voice transmission that Hua Jiyu had suffered amnesia. Nanda Wanine found this an unbearable reality, but when she thought about the fact that Jiyu had returned alive, she was happy. At the time, they had watched Jiyu disappearing in front of them. The pain was unforgettable, and not a day had gone by that they didn't think of it. They never expected that Jiyu would come back one day. Tang Lan also came out, standing a distance away and watching them. Her heart felt their pain. Over the years, she knew how Hua Fenglu and Nanda Wanine spent their days. Only after having given birth to Ninyu, did they have a new human being, upon which they could focus to relieve the pain of the past. But like a thorn at their side that would not be forgotten, they could only pretend that it didn't exist. They had even told Ninyu that her sister had gone to a faraway place. Now it was great to see the family reunited. She wiped the tears away from the corner of her eyes. They should all be happy today. Auntie Tang. Yi Futian smiled, and called out to her when he saw Tang Lan. Tang Lan nodded and said softly, I'm going to cook now. The small town was very quiet. As Yi Futian settled down in Qingzhou City, many who learned of his return would come over and watch him from afar from time to time. After all, he was Qingzhou City's very own legend. Yi Futian kept his aura in check, so that he appeared just like any regular person, chatting with the master and playing chess every day, living simply and quietly. Hua Jiyu's demeanor was still cold and aloof, but occasionally, when she interacted with Ninyu, there were moments of tenderness. However, it was not possible for her to call Hua Finliu and Nanda Wenin mom and dad. Hua Fenglu and Nanda Wenin had accepted that, and thought nothing further. For them, they had once thought that Jiyu left them forever, now felt truly blessed as long as they were able to see her there every day. To them this was simply a wish come true, as long as they could see her. Outside in the yard, Yi Futian and Hua Fenglu each sat on a wicker chair, on each side of the doorway, lying there lazily like two door guards. "When do you plan to leave?" Hua Fenglu asked softly. "You are not coming along?" Yi Futian looked at Hua Fenglu beside him and asked. "It'll be good for us to stay here with Ninyu. It's better for her to just be an ordinary person, much simpler." Hua Fenglu whispered. "We won't worry as long as we know that Jiyu is well. When you have time, just bring her back to visit us." After having been through so much, Hua Fengliu's mentality was very different from the one he had in the past. He now preferred simplicity and quietude, and even hoped that Ninyu could live out her life in simplicity and happiness. "It's not so simple," Yi Futian said. "I have enemies, and they have found me at the barren state. For you to stay here may not give me peace of mind." Hua Fenglu was stunned. Had they already chased him to the barren state? He rubbed between his brows and felt a little helpless, saying, "Since accepting you as a disciple, there hasn't been a day of peace. I don't know what evil I did in my previous life to deserve this. No matter what, your disciple is now a Renhuang. Can you please give me a break?" Yi Futian replied with some resignation. "Renhuang," Hua Fenglu murmured. This was the first time he heard Yi Futian talk about his realm, but he still appeared quite casual. He looked at Yi Futian and asked, "Is it very extraordinary?" He didn't seem to understand the concept of Renhuang. Not really. Yi Futian felt completely deflated under Hua Fengliu's gaze. He figured that even someday, when he became an emperor, it would still be the same in front of this man, who had never spared him any dignity. It was pretty soul-crushing. "Master, don't worry, if something happens. I will send someone to escort Ninyu, Master, and Mistress out of there as soon as possible," Yi Futian replied. "It's up to you then," Hua Fenglu said with resignation. Since Yi Futian had already said as much, he could only go along with it. Even though he liked the peace and quiet at present, in reality, he was still worried about Jiyu. If Jiyu really were to come back once several years, he would certainly miss her very much. Both he and Nanda Wenin wanted to watch over Jiyu, regardless of whether she would ever remember him as her father. Of course, there was also Yi Futian. Although he had never spared Yi Futian in words, his true feeling about Yi Futian was well known to those who were around him all these years. Since many years ago, the two of them, master and disciple, had depended on each other. When Yi Futian walked out of Qingzhou City, carried him on his back, they were already like father and son. Over the years, Yi Futian had had many masters, and every one of them had treated Yi Futian very well. But the one that he was truly close to was Hua Fenglu, because he was the only one he could communicate freely. At this time, Ninyu came over with Hua Jiyu, asking Yi Futian, "Big brother, I will take you and my sister out to play. You take me?" Yi Futian looked at Ninyu. "Yep." Ninyu blinked her big eyes and nodded earnestly. "Qingzhou Lake is beautiful at night, and every day there are many pretty girls on the boats. Ninyu has the best ideas." Yi Futian squeezed Ninyu's face and nodded with a smile. "However, you should call me brother-in-law." "Ninyu likes to call you big brother," Ninyu said with a chuckle. "Fine, whatever you like." Yi Futian got up and picked up Ninyu, saying, "Let's go." Hua Fenglu looked at the three of them leaving. Yi Futian, carrying one in his arm and holding hands with the other. A smile radiated from his slightly aged face. Eyes closed, he was enjoying the sunshine quietly, with a smile on his face. For this quiet little town, Qingzhou Lake was quite lively. The temperament of Yi Futian and Hua Jiyu easily attracted attention. Not to mention there was a girl next to them, who looked like a porcelain doll. What a handsome pair and what a beautiful child! Many people exclaimed silently, and they smiled when they walked by Futian. Such a beautiful picture lightened up the mood of many. This must be a very happy family. Look at how clean and nice other children are. And then look at you. Someone behind them reprimanded a little boy who was 6 or 7 years old, dirty, and obviously naughty. Why don't you look at that big brother and sister? It's obviously hereditary, what can I do? The little boy retorted. Futian smiled warmly when he heard the voice behind him. Clearly, many people had mistaken Nianyu as his and Jiyu's child. Of course there were resemblances. Hua Jiyu felt strange when she heard this. Futian looked at her and realized he kind of wanted a child. At this instant, he somewhat understood what the master was feeling. After experiencing so much in the outside world, sometimes this kind of simple happiness was really wonderful. The shore of Qingzhou Lake was a familiar place with familiar scenery. Futian put Nianyu down, holding her with one hand and Hua Jiyu with the other, and said softly, Jiyu, this is where we held hands for the first time. With nightfall approaching, there were more and more boats. Looking at all this, Hua Jiyu too felt that it was a very beautiful sight. Big brother, shall we go on a boat? Nianyu looked up at Futian. Futian stooped down and said to Nianyu, Nianyu, would you like big brother to play guqin for you? Sure, my dad likes to play guqin too. Nianyu nodded happily. Let's go then. Futian took Nianyu's hand and walked to the shore of the lake. They found a place to sit on the ground, and a guqin appeared in front of him. It was the famous guqin that once belonged to the String Emperor at Taishan Mountain. Nianyu sat quietly next to Futian, holding her little head in her hands, extremely adorable. Everyone around them was looking at them. At this time, the sound of the music moved slowly. The moment the notes started, the crowd quieted down involuntarily. This was a very beautiful tune. With the beating of each note, brilliant lights flashed around Futian, surrounding him. What beautiful music! On Qingzhou Lake, many people on the boats looked toward the lake's shore. The white-haired young man, a girl that could only be from a fairy tale, and behind them, a goddess-like beauty. Of course, there were those who recognized Futian, and while they were excited inside, they didn't go up to disturb him. They just listened quietly. The sound of guqin gradually became louder, like a phoenix singing, with an even more brilliant light now surrounded Futian. Under the night sky, a radiant divine bird slowly took shape. Look, it's a phoenix, someone exclaimed, and all eyes were on Futian. The sound of guqin sounded like phoenix singing, and around Futian, a pair of phoenix flew around him, a rather dreamlike sight. At this moment, many women on the ships could not help but look intently. How beautiful! Nianyu also stood up. She came to Futian and watched the phoenix flying around him, a bright and innocent smile on her face. She extended her hand, wanting to touch the phoenix, and saw that the phoenix now flew and danced around her. Big brother, they are following me. As Nianyu began to run, the phoenix trailed around her. The girl smiled brightly, and her laughter rang under the night sky by Qingzhou Lake, made everyone smile. This was such a heartwarming event. Hua Jiyu watched all this with undivided attention, and a smile actually appeared on her face. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1721 Warmth. Chapter 1721 Warmth. After staying in Qingzhou City for a couple of days, Futian left with Hua Fenglu and his family. When the black wind condor spread its wings to depart, many from Qingzhou City watched them leave. Although many already knew who Futian was, no one disturbed him except for an occasional stare from a distance. No one expected that he would leave after only 2 days, so this caught many by surprise. There was a woman standing in front of the house, watching them as they were leaving. She stood there for quite a long time afterward. With the kind of cultivation that Futian possessed, a single sweep of his divine spirit was enough to see through everyone in Qingzhou City. However, this time he just stayed there quietly for 2 days without causing any excitement. Just as the master preferred peace and quiet nowadays. Although his cultivation was superior, he had not interfered with other people's lives. He could easily change people's destiny, But in doing so, their course of life would change accordingly. Who knew what the future would bring? Qingzhou City was a paradise in his heart. But what Yi Futian didn't know was that after he left, the island city upon the East Sea was gradually being swallowed up by heavy fog and became ever more elusive. Upon the East Sea, immediately outside the island city, under the shocked observation of those ships that were traveling in the vicinity, the island became increasingly blurry until it had completely disappeared from their field of vision. All they could see was a cloud of mist. In the following month, there were those who left Qingzhou City, entered into the mist, and were never seen again. Gradually, except those who had families in Qingzhou City, no one dared to venture into the mist. A few months later, the mist dissipated, but Qingzhou City had completely disappeared. It was as if there had never been such a city that existed in the East Sea. Qingzhou City was nothing but an island in the East Sea of the East Sea City inside the Nanda Nation. Although it had caused some discussion in the East Sea City, it was soon forgotten by the others. At most, it would only be mentioned years later as an unsolved mystery. Yi Futian took his time on the way over. But when he returned, it took only moments. He had picked up some people on the way, met up with them in the Holy Ji Palace in the Barren State, and then departed toward Emperor Xia's realm. After that, from Emperor Xia's realm to Crimson Dragon Realm, he took advantage of Crimson Dragon Realm's teleportation Grand Matrix to return to Heavenly Mandate Realm. It took very little time for him to get back, so that by the time they got back, the assessment at Heavenly Mandate Academy had not yet concluded, and countless cultivators from the 9 realms were still converged inside Heavenly Mandate City. In the Heavenly Mandate Realm, outside the Heavenly Mandate Academy, a divine bird, the roc, morphed back into its original form. The wings of 1,000 meters were spreading out, covering the sky and the sun, and a mighty group rode on its back. There were not many of them when they departed to the lower worlds, but now there were many on the return trip. They were all families and friends from the lower worlds of the 9 states. Were it not for the cultivators of the Shen clan, Yi Futian might not have brought so many people back. But since what had happened, he must now guard against the Shen clan. At the very least, those who were close to him could not be left behind in the lower worlds for fear that their safety might be threatened by the Shen clan. On the back of the roc, those from the 9 states looked down at the vast crowd below. They also saw the people taking part in the assessment outside the Heavenly Mandate Academy and felt an incomparably powerful breath of the Saint Plane bloomed and filled the space. At a glance, cultivators of the Saint Realm were packed in densely like sardines, and all the saints from the 9 states were dumbfounded. They were all people at the top in the 9 states, transcendent and holy. However, in the Heavenly Mandate Realm, the Saint Realm actually looked quite different. The hearts of many palpitated. They had thought that the Supreme Region would definitely be different, but they never expected it to be so terrifying. Donglu, is Saint Plane the general level cultivation of the Heavenly Mandate Realm? Zhuge Qingfeng asked Gu Donglu, who was beside him. Gu Donglu and Zhuge Mingyue both stood next to him. No. Gu Donglu shook his head and said, actually, people above the Saint Plane were in the minority. It was just that now we are basically only in contact with those above the Saint Plane, and some were even in the Runhuang Plane. The Heavenly Mandate Academy is the preaching holy land of Heavenly Mandate Realm. All the cultivators of the 9 Supreme Imperial Realms have come to participate in the assessment of the Academy, which means that the people you see in front of you were all the elite of the 9 realms. Zhuge Qingfeng nodded. This was easy to understand. People at different levels would naturally be surrounded by different levels of people. Of course, the greater environment of the upper worlds and the lower worlds is different, much easier for cultivation, and the Saint Plane is not as difficult to achieve as in the lower worlds, Gu Donglu added. Do you all feel very discouraged? Zhuge Qifeng smiled as he looked at Dozhan and others next to him. A few of those old guys completely had no place here. They all smiled feebly. There were too many people below, and at a glance, it was just a vast crowd, and all of their cultivation was so high that it was a bit frightening. The roc spread its wings and came to the outer peripheral of Heavenly Mandate Academy. The people below saw the white-haired young man on the back of the roc, and suddenly many people bowed and called out, Emperor Yi. Greetings to Emperor Yi. Many people bowed and saluted Yi Futian, demonstrating a lot of respect, especially the youngsters. Now Yi Futian was a legend among the younger generation. He was their belief and their idol. Their respect was from the heart. Who else had the courage to lead a great army and challenge the Shin clan? They looked at each other, and there was shock in their eyes. Yi Futian didn't explain to them the actual situation here. Yi Futian's status seemed to be very high and lofty. Yi Futian nodded slightly toward the people below, as the rock entered straight away inside the Heavenly Mandate Academy, swooping down toward the center. When the rock landed, Yi Futian said, "Here." As he was speaking, they went down, and the rock turned into human form. Around them, many a figure flickered their way over. Many of them were prominent figures from the academy. They were saying, "You are back." Yi Futian nodded. Then there were some youngsters who rushed over. Not many knew Yi Futian had gone away this time. After he returned with so many people in tow, inevitably, it would attract a lot of curiosity. The saints from the 9 states felt the aura from those people, and they couldn't help but feel a little nervous. The strongest person they had ever seen before was Emperor Xia. But from Emperor Xia's realm to the Crimson Dragon realm, and then to Heavenly Mandate realm, they all understood that Emperor Xia was simply no comparison with the older generation of cultivators here, because they were simply not on the same level. Those people who stood there felt unfathomable. Just how strong were they? Only heaven knew. They had never come into contact with such strong people. Although Hua Fenglu had feigned disdain when he was in Qingzhou City, he certainly understood that Yi Futian was a true power now, and he had reached an unattainable height. Of course, Hua Fenglu was not too surprised. He was one of the few people who knew Yi Futian's greatest secret. Back then, in front of Emperor Yi Qing's statue, he was the one who protected Yi Futian with his own life. When this guy claimed to be a natural-born emperor as a teenager, it was just that he had no concept of what an extensive impact it would have at the time. Big brother. Huan Yinyu walked next to Yi Futian, took his hand, and looked up at him timidly. After all, Huan Yinyu, who grew up in Qingzhou City, was only a 5-year-old girl. She was a little scared because she had never seen anything like it. Yi Futian bowed slightly and picked her up in his arms, and said softly, "Don't be afraid. From now on, everyone here will be your grandpas, uncles, and aunties. You can call them whatever you want, and they will all like you." Yinyu nodded gently, still holding onto Yi Futian's neck tightly. A 5-year-old child was very sensitive to the sentiments of those around her. Yi Futian's was so gentle and indulgent toward her, so that even though she couldn't quite understand it, she was very close to Yi Futian. Even her own sister, Hua Jiyu, was not so close to her. After all, although Hua Jiyu was very good to her, she rarely smiled. What a cute little thing. Many people showed a kind look when they saw Yinyu. This little thing was way too adorable. "She's pretty." Xiaomuyu stepped forward and pinched Yinyu's cheek. She then smiled and said, "Let me give you a hug." "Big sister, you are so beautiful." Yinyu grinned, and then turned around in shyness, still holding on to Yi Futian's neck. Xiaomuyu blinked and looked at Yi Futian asking, "Master, whose child is this? She's so smart." "Your grandmaster's child, Jiyu's younger sister," Yi Futian smiled and answered. Then he looked at Hua Fenglu and Dozhan next to him and said, "This is the grandmaster, this is also." Xiaomuyu's expression was particularly worth watching. But she still bowed to Hua Fenglu and Dozhan and said, "Disciple Xiaomuyu greets the grandmaster and other elders. How did you trick them into becoming your disciples?" Hua Fenglu whispered. He could see that this beautiful woman with extraordinary temperament had a very high level of cultivation. "Master, what do you mean trick?" They were perfectly willing. "Ask me you if you don't believe me." Yi Futian was a little offended. "Grandmaster, it was out of my own will to follow the master," Xiaomuyu said with a small smile. She could see that these people were probably the master's family. The master, who was considered as the most genius talent in the supreme region, had indeed come from the lower worlds. "Hello, two masters, disciple Dozhao here." Dozhao jumped out and shouted cheerfully, "You are everywhere," Yi Futian said with a laugh. But this guy's cultivation was somewhat similar to that of Master Dozhan. As for the names of Sage Dojan and Saint Dojan, they were both honorific titles, and his real name was not known to many. Dozhao, this master is suitable to cultivate methods from your clan. You two can figure it out yourselves. He pointed to Dojan. Sounds great. The master can choose any top methods you like, Dozhao said readily. Isn't it a little inappropriate for me to do that? Dojan could tell that Dozhao's realm was far stronger than him. Master need not be polite. If he's willing to give, you can choose at will. Futian smiled. Yes, master needs not be polite. Dozhao nodded in agreement. Dojan smiled a little weakly. Futian. At this time, Lord Taixian and the others also came over and asked, family? Futian nodded and introduced to everyone, Lord Taixian, the Dean of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Greetings. When everyone heard Futian's introduction, they knew that this must be an esteemed person, and they were all being respectful. No need to be so formal, Lord Taixian said. Futian, since it is your family, you will do well to get them settled. Yes. What's the girl's name? Lord Taixian looked at Ninyu. Grandpa, my name is Hua Ninyu. Ninyu said softly. Good girl, give me a hug? Lord Taixian was kind and gentle, just like any other ordinary elder. This time Ninyu looked at Futian first, and when she saw Futian nodding, she reached out with her hand. Lord Taixian took her and held her carefully, revealing a loving smile that had never been seen before. After living for such a long time, he had not yet enjoyed this kind of joy. Since Ninyu called me grandfather, would you mind me treating her like my own granddaughter? Lord Taixian looked at Hua Fenglu and said with a smile. The elder's affection is Ninyu's blessing. Hua Fenglu smiled and nodded. Before, he had hoped that Ninyu would spend a normal life in Qingzhou City. However, since they were here now, it was better for them to adapt to things. With the affection of such a prominent figure, how could he mind? Lord Taixian and all the elders, Ninyu's talent may be a little lacking by nature, but we will leave her cultivation to you in the future, Futian said with a smile. That is no problem, I'm still here, aren't I? Lord Taixian said with a smile. His realm was enough to change lives and alter destinies, so a little lacking in natural talent was of no concern to him. Many were looking at the little girl in Lord Taishuan's arms, and they all knew that the girl's future was bound to be extraordinary. Of course, they could also see that Futian's position in this Heavenly Mandate Academy was significantly superior. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1722 Thoughts. Chapter 1722 Thoughts. The people from the 9 states stayed in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The academy looked like a city after expansion, and had enough rooms to accommodate the large group of people from the 9 states. After that, Futian introduced the guests one by one, and asked some people of the Heavenly Mandate Academy to help the guests from the 9 states to cultivate. Zhuge Qifeng and other members of the Zhuge family obtained the thunder methods after defeating the 9 Cloud Palace, which was well known for the thunder methods back in the days. The Zhuge family also occupied some thunder god relics of the 9 Cloud Palace. Therefore, Futian invited people who pursued the thunder methods to cultivate at the relics. In the meantime, the celestial gate of vast heaven would help the Zhuge family cultivate. Gu Donglu was the clan lord of the celestial gate of vast heaven, and had no problem with attending to his father-in-law. Futian asked Dojan to follow the seniors of the Dou tribe to cultivate. As for Yuan Zhan and Yuan Hong, Futian introduced them to Zhu Yan, the demon emperor, and the demon emperor of the thunder gods. Yuan Hong and the others belonged to a golden ape clan, and were naturally excited about the meeting. Futian had arrangements for the rest of the people as well. Futian would certainly make sure that they made headways in cultivation, since he brought these people to the Heavenly Mandate realm. They could achieve breakthroughs even if they reached bottlenecks before. Futian wasn't worried about Ninyu's cultivation progress at all. He had confidence in Ninyu, as much as he did in Feishue. Feishue had her grandmother as her mentor, while Ninyu had Lord Taixian and many other masters in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. She could learn anything she wanted in the future. Yi Futian had been busy taking care of these matters recently. The Heavenly Mandate Academy also wrapped up the disciples' selection. Some people were eliminated, yet some were ecstatic to be the first class of disciples of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The small group of cultivators who became the core disciples were especially thrilled. Maybe they would have a chance to develop the super divine wheel when they attempted the Runhuang Plain, if they could be lucky enough to receive some help from Yi Futian in the future. The people from the 9 states eventually dispersed, and the Heavenly Mandate Academy returned to normal. However, it was still bustling and lively because of the new disciples. Besides, the population of Heavenly Mandate City grew as well. Even though many left, there were still plenty of people who chose to stay and cultivate in Heavenly Mandate City. Yi Futian finally had some free time after having his hands full for many days straight. Nianyu became more at ease in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. She often pestered Lord Taixian, and occasionally went to bother Hua Jiyu. Although Hua Jiyu spent most of her time cultivating, she would still set cultivation aside to indulge Nianyu whenever she saw her. At the moment, Yi Futian was watching the conversation between Hua Jiyu and Nianyu at where Hua Jiyu cultivated. Of course, Nianyu was the one talking most of the time, while Hua Jiyu responded every now and then. Looking at the pleasant and delightful scene, Yi Futian cracked a gentle smile. How wonderful it would be if Jiyu came back for real. She must be very happy to see Nianyu. However, Yi Futian started to suspect Hua Jiyu's real identity more and more. He previously speculated that Hua Jiyu might be possessed by the Brahma's pure sky empress. But why would someone like the empress be interrupted by a little girl in the middle of her cultivation? She probably wouldn't bother to talk to Nianyu at all. Besides, the feelers he put out before, like holding her hands, were eventually accepted by Hua Jiyu in spite of her initial resistance. It made him believe that Hua Jiyu was not controlled by the empress. She seemed more like a blank piece of paper in Yi Futian's eyes, as she was not interested in anything else but cultivation. But maybe she was drawn to Hua Nianyu by nature. Just now, a person walked toward Yi Futian. Yi Futian focused his eyes on the incoming woman. Her face was beautiful and ethereal. "How can I help, goddess?" Yi Futian asked with a smile. The woman was the Xiantian goddess. "This girl is disrupting her cultivation by coming here frequently," answered the Xiantian goddess. "She was ordered by the empress before she came here that Hua Jiyu's cultivation was more important than anything else in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. It's not necessary for you to interfere if she doesn't think so herself." Yi Futian answered, smiling. The Xiantian goddess frowned slightly. It seemed that Hua Jiyu didn't stop Nianyu from coming to play indeed. She came to the Heavenly Mandate Academy to cultivate. "I hope you can keep a tight rein on her," said the Xiantian goddess. Yi Futian gazed at Nianyu and smiled softly. "That is your purpose, not mine." Yi Futian replied in a calm voice. "You can leave anytime you want if you don't like it. I won't stop you." After that, Yi Futian walked to Hua Jiyu. The Xiantian goddess shot a cold glance at Yi Futian. As one of the Jyotian goddesses, she enjoyed a high status in the Brahma's pure sky. As talented as Yi Futian was, he was only a junior in her eyes. Nevertheless, Yi Futian didn't show due respect for her at all now. She certainly understood that the Yi Futian here and now was no longer the same person who went to the Xiantian pavilion back in the days. The Brahma's pure sky couldn't possibly manipulate him anymore. This white-haired young man was almost the king without a crown in the Heavenly Mandate realm. He could lead the army to attack the Shen clan with one order. He had already wiped out the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and the Nine-Cloud Palace. They were standing right now on where the palace of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty was in the past. Even the empress probably wouldn't be able to pressure Yi Futian inside of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, let alone her. She had no choice but to back off. "Jiyu." Yi Futian walked to her and called her name. Hua Jiyu raised her head and looked at Yi Futian. Her beautiful eyes were as calm as usual. "Let's go to cultivate in the matrix together." Yi Futian offered his hand. Hua Jiyu hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded slightly and placed her hand on Yi Futian's palm. "Brother, I want to cultivate with you too." Nianyu lifted her chin and said to Yi Futian, "Have you visited Grandpa Xian today?" Yi Futian rubbed Nianyu's head and asked. Nianyu lowered her head and pursed her lips, then said in a quiet voice, "Grandpa Xian doesn't like Nianyu anymore." "How so?" Yi Futian asked with a smile. "Grandpa Xian said he wants to rebuild the foundation for me, and asked me to sit there without moving. It's so tiring. I have so much stuff in my head every time he is done, and I can see different colors around me. Am I sick?" Nianyu raised her eyes and looked at Yi Futian innocently. "How could you be sick? That stuff is the worldly spiritual qi that can make you prettier, among many other things." Yi Futian laughed. "Oh," Nianyu nodded gently said, "No wonder it seems like it's easier for me to learn when I hear father playing the guqin." Yi Futian smiled. A few people walked past the Xiantian goddess. Yi Futian turned back and took a brief look at her said, "I have something to tell you. I told Jiyu's parents that she lost her memory and was saved by the Empress Her Majesty. I hope you don't put me in an awkward position in the future. Otherwise, I have no choice but to show you the door." The Xiantian goddess' face turned somber. Yi Futian was threatening her. Yi Futian had the confidence to do so nowadays. Staring at his receding figure, the Xiantian goddess knew that it would not be easy to take Hua Jiyu back, even though they sent her here to cultivate in the first place. Yi Futian wouldn't let Hua Jiyu go. The Empress wanted Hua Jiyu to make progress in the academy, while Yi Futian set his heart on keeping her here. Therefore, he didn't mind helping Hua Jiyu cultivate. The Xiantian goddess had no solution in the face of Yi Futian's threats. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was Yi Futian's territory. She only realized now that nothing was up to them anymore since they came here. While walking, Yi Futian looked at Nianyu and asked, "Nianyu, can we go see Grandpa Xian?" "Yes." Nianyu nodded sweetly. "Lulan, take her there." Yi Futian turned his head and said to Lulan Shui. She had been taking care of Nianyu these days. "Yes." Lulan Shui stepped forward. Nianyu let go of Yi Futian's hand and left with Lulan Shui. Yi Futian went to the cultivation grounds and met Xiaqing Yuan. She looked at Yi Futian and Hua Jiyu and darted a glance at their hands holding together. A strange look flashed in her eyes yet disappeared shortly. They were husband and wife after all. "Qing Yuan, do you need me?" Yi Futian asked with a smile. "No." Xiaqing Yuan shook her head slightly said, "Carry on. I'm going to cultivate." She replied and walked away, then turned back after a few steps said, "I plan to be in seclusion to cultivate for a while. Can I go to look for you when I am ready to attempt the Renhuang Plain?" "Of course." Yi Futian answered pleasantly. He already guessed that was why Xiaqing Yuan wanted to talk to him. "Qing Yuan, you obtained a divine item from the god's relic. You can merge it with the life spirit to transform your life spirit and create the divine wheel of the great path. With my help, you will definitely develop a perfect divine wheel. Don't worry and concentrate on cultivation," Yi Futian said. "Yes, I understand." Xiaqing Yuan nodded slightly and left. Was she about to try out the Renhuang Plain? She didn't seem to be excited. She always wanted to advance to Renhuang, return to the Emperor Xia's realm, and take over her father's position. Emperor Xia was eager to come out to cultivate, but he couldn't leave without someone in the realm to inherit his throne. She would be able to free her father from the burden when she became the Renhuang. She had a sense of loss whenever she thought about it. She wasn't so thrilled about the Renhuang Plain. It was a complicated feeling. Let's cultivate in seclusion for a while as well after taking care of the matters in hand, Yi Futian said to Hua Jiyu. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was stepping onto the right track. He hoped to focus on cultivation and seclusion for a few years after everything calmed down. Nowadays, the Golden Divine Nation and the Shun clan didn't dare to bother him. The conflicts between him and other forces were not as serious and heated. They wouldn't risk stirring up trouble. Thus, the 9 realms should be relatively quiet in the next few years, at least to him. Nonetheless, the calmness was only temporary. He would only be confident enough to face the next storm if he kept improving himself by constant cultivation. He was not where he wanted to be yet. He discovered that it was never enough, no matter how high he reached or how studiously he cultivated. Perhaps he could only enjoy the absolute freedom when he hit the peak. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chuyu, like most people, joined the Heavenly Mandate Academy after its establishment. However, they were the first group. When the Tianshan Academy was first established, Guide Song, the overlord of the Golden Divine Nation, and the cultivators of the Shen clan descended in force, so that almost no one dared to approach the academy. Chuyu was one of the first 3 who entered the academy. Many people guessed that perhaps from that time on, he had already been regarded as an important person to be brought up in leadership. Well, I heard that senior brother Chuyu was the first to enter that place, and was the only disciple of the Heavenly Mandate Academy who was not previously acquainted with Emperor Yi. Someone said softly. Many people knew what place he was referring to. The cottage inside the Heavenly Mandate Academy was a mysterious place that was not made public to the outside world. But those who cultivated in the Heavenly Mandate Academy more or less knew something about it. In the past few years, several people had entered the cottage, but only Chuyu, who had not known Yi Futian before, was the first to enter the cottage by his own ability. So, it is possible that senior brother Chuyu could cast the divine wheel of the Great Path. Some showed a sharpness in their eyes, and there were some speculations in their minds. Brother Chuyu was an extremely famous figure in Heavenly Mandate City even before that. The crown prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, Yi Tianyu, once tried to coax Chuyu to accompany him in cultivation, so his talent was without doubt. However, Emperor Yi and the others truly didn't care about his relationship with the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. Some people couldn't help but secretly admire him. The operations of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were fairly transparent. This matter also demonstrated the generosity of Yi Futian and the elders of the academy. They didn't care much about the candidate's background or past. It was said that the Chu clan in Heavenly Mandate City had already designated Chuyu as the next clan leader. Senior sister Feishue became an emperor at such a young age. Wasn't the conflict with the Shen clan caused by sister Feishue? Someone looked at the other young person sitting above, and it was Feishue. Senior sister Feishue is actually not that young, but it was said that she used to fall into deep sleep often, almost in a state of suspended animation. Now that she's being guided in cultivation by the peerless goddess of the Shen clan, Shen Luoxue, how could she not become an emperor? Someone said. And besides, there is also. The people around nodded. It was rumored that Feishue still had a divine item in her body, and she was also the daughter of Yi Futian's master. It was completely reasonable that she became an emperor. At this time, on the high platform, someone who had just passed the screening came over, looking at the 9 people in front of him. Yifeng, Saint Plain of Nirvana. An old man who was sitting in the middle said, "Suppose one day in the future you are a Run Huang, and the Heavenly Mandate Academy encounters a crisis, just like 4 years ago, with the great army descending on the academy. If you participated in the battle, you will most likely lose your life. What will you do? If the Heavenly Mandate Academy thinks that the battle can be won, then I will fight. If it thinks that it cannot be won, then I will run. If one day I have the ability to avenge, I will. If not, I will choose to continue cultivating quietly," Yifeng responded. The elder looked at the others, lingered especially on Feishue, and then looked at Yifeng and nodded. "Congratulations on passing the assessment." Yifeng bowed slightly to everyone, then stepped aside. After that, someone else came forward, and the questions were still simple. However, the results were different. Some passed and some didn't. The people who had reached this point had, in fact, already passed the talent screening. As long as the 9 people were in agreement, they could become core disciples. This year's assessment format was different from years past. It was really the simplest yet. Just a few questions, or even just one question. At this time, another person came forward. This person exuded a dazzling divine light and a supernatural temperament. He was a Run Huang. Most people who entered the Heavenly Mandate Academy were in the Saint Realm, but there were also a few Run Huang. Or rather, Those who broke through and became Runhuang in the training process at the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Not just any Runhuang could enter the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The rule of the Heavenly Mandate Academy dictated that they would still need to go through a selection process. Yan Huang of the Solar Realm, Divine Wheel First Order, cast the Divine Wheel of the Celestial level. The old man looked at him and said, "Why would you not enter the Solar Divine Palace to cultivate, but choose the Heavenly Mandate Academy instead? The Heavenly Mandate Academy is famous in all of the 9 realms. Do I need any other reason?" Yan Huang replied with a smile. "If your cultivation at the Heavenly Mandate Academy is not satisfactory, it will not help you much, because you are already in the realm of Renhuang, and there are no other strong elders to guide you in your cultivation. But if admitted, at some point in the future, you may be required to do something for the academy. Would you be willing?" The old man asked. This question, stated bluntly, was to ask him if the Heavenly Mandate Academy couldn't help in furthering his cultivation. Would he still be willing to pay the price? Yan Huang didn't answer immediately. His pupils contracted slightly, but then he smiled casually. "Since I have entered the academy, I am a member of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. If the academy has any needs, of course, I will do my best to help." "What if there is danger?" the old man asked again. "If the danger is great, I might consider it. But if the danger is low, I will be willing to do it," Yan Huang replied. The old man nodded, then looked to the others, as if they were secretly transmitting messages. After a while the old man said, "Yan Huang assessment failed." The pupils of the people in the distance contracted. Failed? How could it be? Yan Huang's cultivation was inordinately advanced, and he was quite well known among his peers. His strength was mighty, and his demeanor aloof. But he actually failed during the selection process for core disciples. What was wrong with his answer? Yan Huang was also in shock. A scorching glow shot out from his eyes as he stared at the old man. He asked, "Why? You'll still have a chance in the future." The old man did not respond directly, but replied with a smile. Although he was sitting in the middle seat for the assessment, the actual decision-maker was Futian, who was sitting next to him. She was the sole person who determined the results in the last phase of the assessment. In fact, even if a few of the others didn't quite understand Futian's reasons, but everyone sitting here were key members of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, and they would have never doubted such a high-level decision. As for the reason behind Yan Huang's failure, it was actually very simple, because Futian saw that all his answers were nothing but lies. Heavenly Mandate Academy would rather choose those disciples with lesser talents over those cultivators who were keen on infiltrating the core of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. These core disciples would be the mainstay of the academy in the future. "I want to know the reason," Yan Huang insisted. The old man frowned, but heard Futian answered, "You are a cultivator of the Solar Divine Palace, correct?" Yan Huang's pupils contracted, and he now looked at Futian, who was sitting beside the old man. How could she know that there was a problem in his answer? The Heavenly Mandate Academy is said to recruit disciples regardless of background. So what does it matter whether I am a disciple of the Solar Divine Palace or not? Yan Huang did not answer but looked at Futian instead. "Indeed, we don't question your background. If you are a disciple of the Solar Divine Palace, you could very well enter the academy as such. However, if you deliberately lie to conceal your identity, it just casts more doubts on your true purpose." Futian said, "I will report this matter to the academy." The disciples who were watching from a distance were stunned. Yan Huang was actually a member of the Solar Divine Palace. But why would he hide it? "Goodbye." Yan Huang turned around to walk away. Since he failed, he was going to leave the Heavenly Mandate Academy. It seemed that the Heavenly Mandate Academy had secretly investigated him. "Yan Huang, don't leave the Heavenly Mandate Academy for the next few days." Another voice was heard. It was Chuyu. Yan Huang turned around and glanced at Chuyu. "You have no right to give me orders." After that he took great steps forward. However, Chuyu also stood up, and in an instant, a violent power of the Great Path shrouded Yan Huang. Yan Huang's face changed slightly as he turned to face Chuyu. "I have heard your name many times while cultivating at the Heavenly Mandate Academy. I guess I can see for myself today." "You are not worthy," Chuyu said. He stepped into the void, and the power of the terrifying divine wheel of the great path swept out from his body and rushed into Yin Huang's, causing his divine wheel to tremble, and it was suppressed. Bang! Chuyu took a step forward, and Yin Huang was knocked backward hard. "I suspect that you have entered the Heavenly Mandate Academy with ulterior motives, and will report this to the Law Enforcement Hall for further investigation. If you leave without authorization, know that you are doing so at your own risk," Chuyu said forcefully, and suddenly, Yin Huang looked extremely upset. The elder who was sitting there now looked calmer. In the past few years, the Heavenly Mandate Academy had grown extremely quickly. While it looked prosperous and peaceful on the outside, the reality was that it had already been infiltrated by many other principalities, each with their own motivation. It seemed that they really need to think the matter over carefully. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1724 Dark Currents. Chapter 1724 Dark Currents. After 4 years, the Heavenly Mandate Academy's internal operations were already well developed. The Supreme Elder of Heavenly Mandate Academy was in charge of the Law Enforcement Hall, and it was none other than Shen Luoxue, who was once the goddess of the Shun clan. Those in the Shun clan possessed a special talent, and under the survey of the divine eyes, there was no secret that could be hidden from them. The incident with Yin Huang was personally investigated by Shen Luoxue, who rarely involved herself in day-to-day affairs. The final result was that Yin Huang was indeed an undercover agent, whose purpose was to infiltrate into the core of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. He was to collect information and to get a hold of secrets inside the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Of course, no details were disclosed to the public. Shen Luoxue's investigation revealed that Yin Huang was to find out how Yi Futian was able to create the perfect divine wheel, what he had gotten from inside the god's relic, and to obtain some exclusive methods in cultivation, and to bring them back to the Solar Divine Palace. In truth, the Heavenly Mandate Academy was a principality in preaching, not a clan. It did not necessarily require a strong sense of loyalty from its disciples, since leaving after their cultivation had concluded wasn't an issue for the academy. The assessment process was not actually as strict. As long as there are no great concerns, it was not insurmountable to become a core disciple. But to become a disciple of the cottage, or even to enter the absolute center of the academy, would require a strong sense of loyalty to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. However, this did not mean that the Heavenly Mandate Academy would permit any actions that would endanger the academy. Therefore, the punishment for Yin Huang was to abolish his cultivation and expelled him from the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They did not announce the true identity of Yin Huang, though it was really not so much a secret. Their discretion was to save the Solar Divine Palace the humiliation. As for the abolition of Yin Huang's cultivation, if the Solar Divine Palace was not afraid of offending the Heavenly Mandate Academy by sending in a spy, the academy wouldn't care too much about the consequences of the punishment. It was all done with mutual understanding. The incident this time was meant to set an example for the others, and it was the first time that the Heavenly Mandate Academy had sent such a warning to the people inside the academy. The place of preaching also meant that no internal conflicts were allowed. In the Sword Pavilion at the Heavenly Mandate Academy, a horrible sword intent flowed inside a sword matrix, with many figures sitting there quietly. After a long while, a mild chiding was heard as the sword intent dissipated, and the power of the sword matrix disappeared. "How do you feel?" The sword master of Lihan asked several young people who were in the matrix. "Although my lord and Yi Wuchen have both reached the level of the Sword Emperor, their swordsmanship feels totally different," Wang Chuan replied. "Take the best from the experts, but comprehend your own swordsmanship." The sword master of Lihan nodded slightly. "It's so depressing." The person beside Wang Chuan sighed. "We all cultivated together back then. Now even Wuchen had proven the way, and I am not even within reach of nirvana." The speaker was Su Kei, the young master of Tingxua House in the land of the 9 states. His father Su Shang was next to him saying, Everyone's fortune is different. You will have your shot in the future. Father, let's not talk about me. Look at yourself. You are not even at my level, Su Ke shrugged. Get out of here. Su Shang cursed, embarrassment written all over his face. This B***** was looking to get hurt. Wuxian and I have had our own adventures, and we've had better luck. The swordmaster of Lihan appeared very calm, without the slightest air of an elder. When they were at Emperor Xia's realm, Renhuang were legends. But in the Heavenly Mandate Academy, being a Renhuang was nothing worth showing off. Uncle Su and Su Ke's cultivation path is similar to that of the clan of the Seven Slayers. Futian meant that you could ask them for some advice, Yi Wuchen said. The clan of the Seven Slayers had quite a few people who were currently cultivating at the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The Heavenly Mandate Academy generally welcomed everyone, as long as they were not sneaky like the Solar Divine Palace. Don't be depressed. With all these years spent at Crimson Dragon Realm and the Heavenly Mandate Academy, you've already cultivated fast enough. Next to him, Huang Zhouge spoke with a smile, and Su Ke nodded. This was the truth. Back then, they would have never been able to imagine today's scenario. At that time in the 9 states, Saint Plain was already legendary, enough to stand on top of the 9 states. And now, they were looking forward to the realm of Renhuang. Renhuang, Huang Zhouge remarked in his heart. His own ancestors were in the realm of Renhuang, and now he had the opportunity to reach the realm of his ancestors. For the past few years, Yi Futian had spent a lot of time on them. He would come and visit them whenever he came out of the retreat, and provided them the best resources for cultivation. These young people aside, even those from the older generation in the 9 states, who had all reached bottleneck in their own cultivation, had their realms abruptly smashed through in recent years. Dozhan, for example, was cultivating the powerful body refining formula of the Dou tribe, constantly breaking through the limit of his own physical body, and tempering his spiritual willpower by various means. In such ways, even previous limitations could be broken. How is Futian's cultivation? I wonder if he will break into the 2nd level of the divine wheel, Su Ke whispered. In the past few years, Yi Futian's cultivation had been intermittent, and most of his time, besides spending on cultivation, was spent on being with Hua Jieyu and Ninyu. He just came out of the retreat and went to Uncle Hua's, so let's not disturb him for the time being. Huang Zhouge smiled and said, and Su Ke nodded in agreement. Clearly, they won't deprive Yi Futian of the opportunity to enjoy some peace and quiet. In the residential palace where Hua Fenglu was located, Nanda Wenin had already prepared a table of food. Although Yi Futian no longer required meal intake at this point in his cultivation, he still quite enjoyed the simplicity and warmth afforded by sharing a meal. Ninyu hasn't come back yet from cultivation? Yi Futian smiled and asked. It should be soon, Nanda Wenin replied. Brother, sister. Just as they were chatting, a clear voice came from outside, and a little girl, like a little fairy, came running toward Yi Futian and Hua Jiyu. Hua Ninyu stretched out her hands to Yi Futian, indicating that she wanted to be picked up. Hey, you are too old for this. Yi Futian smiled and rubbed Ninyu's head. The girl was now 9 years old, and she still wanted him to pick her up every time she saw him. We'll stop when I'm 10. Ninyu looked at Yi Futian pitifully. Deal. Let's see how heavy you are now. Yi Futian indulgently picked Hua Ninyu up, and the girl suddenly burst into a bright smile. How's your cultivation coming along? Yi Futian asked. Grandpa Xian said that I've got potential, and that I will definitely be better than you in the future. Ninyu looked at Yi Futian with her big eyes. That's for sure. Ninyu has to be better than me. Yi Futian smiled and nodded, and put Ninyu on the chair. When everyone sat down, Nanda Wenin looked at Lulan Shui and said, Lulan, come and sit with us. No. Lulan Shui shook her head. Come and sit together. Yi Futian turned his head and said to her. Lulan Shui glanced at him, then nodded gently, and sat down on the other side of Ninyu. You've worked hard these years, don't delay your own cultivation, Yi Futian said to Lulan Shui. Lulan Shui nodded slightly. Although her cultivation was weak, she couldn't have imagined all that was before her eyes. However, if you return to the 9 states now, you would be someone great, and could even become a clan lord in your own right, Yi Futian said with a smile. Lulan Shui gave him a look and said, I'm not going back. Yi Futian didn't expect Lulan Shui to be so sensitive. Upon seeing his gaze, Lulan Shui explained, I like Ningyu very much. I would be happy to take care of her for the foreseeable future. Well, Sister Lulan is very good to me, Ningyu said. I don't want Sister Lulan to leave. I didn't ask Sister Lulan to leave. Yi Futian pinched Ninyu's face and replied. Nanda Wanine watched in silence. She smiled and said, The food is getting cold. Let's eat. She was a woman, so she understood what Lulan Shui was thinking. This girl was way too stubborn. She would rather stay by Yi Futian's side as a handmaid. Well, Masteress, please eat. Yi Futian started serving Nanda Wanine some of the dishes, and then did the same for Jiyu. It's enough to take good care of your own wife. Hua Fenglu glared at Yi Futian, and then took the initiative to serve Nanda Wanine. Of course, he also did so for Tang Lan, who was next to him. Yi Futian had a completely innocent look on his face. Master, you are too. Don't mind him, Nanda Wanine said with a smile. Big brother, eat. Next to him, Hua Ningyu copied Yi Futian, and started serving him the dishes. Ningyu, what about me? Hua Fenglu looked at Ningyu and said, Dad, you have Mom to help you. Ningyu looked at Hua Fenglu innocently with her big eyes. Hua Fenglu looked at her, dumbfounded, and then at Nanda Wanine, who was clearly trying not to laugh. He felt like a total failure. When he thought of that, he gave Yi Futian another dirty look. Yi Futian shrugged, and stifled a smile on his face. The family enjoyed the meal together. Afterward, Yi Futian left with Hua Jiyu. Do you want to go back and rest, or do you want to go to the academy with me? Yi Futian asked Hua Jiyu. Hua Jiyu thought for a moment, then looked at Yi Futian and replied, I'll go with you. Yi Futian smiled when he heard Hua Jiyu's answer. He looked at the beautiful face so close to him and said softly, Can I kiss you? This was his wife, but Yi Futian would never force her to do anything. He had always treated her in the gentlest manner. Hua Jiyu gave him a strange look when she heard Yi Futian's request. There was no embarrassment on her indifferent face, nor did she blush, but she seemed to consider the request seriously. After a moment of silence, she nodded gently. Yi Futian gently circled her waist with both hands, making Hua Jiyu a little nervous. Under the gaze of her beautiful eyes, Yi Futian approached bit by bit and kissed her forehead gently. Hua Jiyu felt a little strange in her heart, but couldn't tell just what that feeling was exactly. Could it be a little nervousness? She didn't quite understand it herself, but when Yi Futian asked her, she didn't seem to mind. Over the years, she seemed to have become accustomed to being with Yi Futian, so that the voice inside her head, that urged her to devote herself to cultivation, had gradually weakened its influence on her. He said that she was his wife, and she too felt that he was very familiar and kind. But who was she? Was she his wife? At this time, in the distant Brahma's pure sky, a strong aura fluctuated in a palace, and it seemed a little cold. Chapter 1725 The Force from the Pa. Chapter 1725 The Force from the Pa. The Heavenly Mandate Academy sent out cultivators to investigate. In the meantime, they urgently recalled the disciples of the academy traveling outside. Yi Futian naturally received the news as well, and didn't go back to cultivate in seclusion. Many people gathered in the Heavenly Mandate Academy, including Lord Taixian. He didn't need to worry about most of the things that happened in the academy these days. But the assassination of the disciples of the academy was no small matter. Right now, everyone in attendance was a key figure in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. How many disciples have been assassinated outside so far? Lord Taixian asked in a cold voice. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was not a clan. The disciples only came to study and cultivate. The assassination of the disciples was meaningless and couldn't weaken the academy as a whole. From what he could see, even the enemies of the Heavenly Mandate Academy didn't have to play such dirty tricks. If it were him, he would never do this kind of thing, as he valued his dignity and reputation as a cultivator in the Runhuang Plain. We counted over 30 people so far. One person responded. We're calling them back as fast as possible. Besides, quite a few elders have gone out to spread the news in the heavenly mandate realm and bring back the disciples cultivating outside. All right, Lord Taishian nodded. He said, do we have any other clues? It's sudden and unexpected. We don't have any clue right now. We can only wait until the people who went out to investigate come back. What do you guys think? Lord Taishian asked. They were all central figures of the academy and should speak their minds freely. Someone took a guess and said, nowadays, an enemy who dares to attack our heavenly mandate academy must be a supreme force rather than an ordinary one. Moreover, it is very likely to be a powerful lord. A powerful lord would be someone esteemed, like Lord Taishian. No one else would dare to provoke the heavenly mandate academy, as they couldn't bear the consequences once they were exposed. What do other people think? Lord Taishian continued to ask. The Shun clan feuds with our academy the longest. Beside them, the Golden Divine Nation also has a deep enmity toward Futian. Other forces were our rivalries in the God's Relic. It seems like the Shun clan should be our major suspect. But I don't believe the Shun clan is behind this. Why? Lord Taishian asked. The Shun clan is too proud and overbearing to do something sneaky like this. Besides, if they wanted to fight back, they would certainly make an earth-shattering move to completely overpower the Heavenly Mandate Academy. It's meaningless to them to kill ordinary disciples of the Academy. Judging by the last battle, it's apparent that the Shun clan doesn't want to or dare to start a war yet. The person continued to speak. People nodded in agreement. The person had a point. The Shun clan had no reason to commit such an act. If that's the case, the Golden Divine Nation is more likely to act behind our back and stir up trouble. Of course, it may also be other forces that want to start a war. Other people suggested. Futian, what do you think? Lord Taishian looked at Yi Futian and asked. I also agree that it's less likely to be the Shun clan. I can't say for sure if it's the Golden Divine Nation. We should wait for the investigators to come back and see if there are more concrete clues, said Yi Futian. Lord Taishian nodded. Even though everyone was eager to know the answer, they had no other choice but to wait for more news for now. How is your cultivation going? Lord Taishian asked Yi Futian. Yi Futian had been cultivating most of the time in the past few years, and only came out very occasionally. I advanced to the Divine Will Second Order not too long ago, replied Yi Futian. People fixed their eyes on Yi Futian. The speed of his cultivation process was indeed amazing. Cultivators in the Runhuang Plain normally spent hundreds of years to move up a level. It would be quite impressive if someone could advance in several decades. Achieving the Divine Will Second Order in on a few years was astonishing and unheard of. A senior from the Xiao clan said, You displayed tremendous power in front of the Xiao clan when Muyu was conferring the crown on the goddess. Now that you have reached the Divine Will Second Order, even cultivators in the Divine Will Fifth Order may not be able to defeat you if you exert all of your strength. The Heavenly Mandate Academy nowadays was an alliance of various forces. The top three forces each assigned numerous cultivators to the academy after the battle with the Shun clan. The Xiao clan certainly had their representatives in the academy as well. Yi Futian nodded slightly, said, I can still protect myself in the middle-level Runhuang Plain. Things will get tricky if I have to fight against cultivators in the high-level Runhuang Plain. Apart from his ability to fight, he also possessed many valuable tools. Although he gave out a lot of the ritual implements he gained from the God's Relic back in the days, he still kept some of the best implements, and had picked several handy ones for himself in the past few years. Therefore, he was confident to say that he could defend himself against cultivators in the middle-level Runhuang Plain, as long as they didn't have the perfect divine wheel. People nodded in silent wonderment. No one else in the Divine Wheel Second Order, in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, had such confidence. Nevertheless, they knew how powerful Yi Futian's divine wheel was. Otherwise, how could he convince the top forces to attack the Shun clan in joint action and establish the Heavenly Mandate Academy? In fact, many people in the Heavenly Mandate Academy were waiting for Yi Futian's time to come. He was destined to become the best cultivator in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. as long as he had enough time to grow. Someone is back. Lord Taishian stood up and walked outside at once, followed by other people. A pung bird dived to the ground, landed in front of the great hall, then transformed into a man. He bowed and said, "My lord, do you have any news?" Lord Taishian asked. "Yes," the man nodded and answered. "The killers excel at assassination, and they disappeared without a trace immediately after the attack. They may cultivate the way of shadow." The way of shadow? Lord Taishuan's face changed. People who cultivated the way of shadow were extremely rare, and were better at covering their tracks than attacking the enemies. Still, they were exceptionally dangerous for being expert assassins. Yi Futian had a strange look. He vaguely remembered that Su Ke seemed to cultivate like this. Which force in the 9 realms is skillful at the way of shadow? People murmured. An odd look flashed in Lord Taishuan's eyes. The Hidden Land Realm, Lord Taishian said. The Hidden Land Realm has more cultivators who specialize in the way of shadow. However, our Heavenly Mandate Academy doesn't have any dispute with the Hidden Land Realm. Several other people darted across the sky. They were all high-level cultivators who were especially swift. They landed in front of the Great Hall and saluted Lord Taishian. Someone said, "It could be a force in the Hidden Land Realm." Hidden Land Realm. Yi Futian recalled that the clan of the God of Ghost, Prison Fort Clan, and the Fate World in the Hidden Land Realm held some grudges against him in the past. But there was nothing serious enough to trigger a war between the top forces. These groups didn't seem to have a legitimate reason to do so. The newly arrived cultivators spoke one by one. They had a similar conclusion based on their investigation. They all suspected the cultivators from the Hidden Land Realm. "My lord," said Hua Qingshan of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. Gu Donglu was now the clan lord of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven with Jiang Qingzi, the legendary cultivator in the Divine Will 9th Order, as his aide. Hua Qingshan, on the other hand, spent most of his time in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven had a closer relationship with the Heavenly Mandate Academy than other groups. After all, Yi Futian and Gu Donglu were brothers who shared a long friendship. The Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven weathered many storms along with Yi Futian. "What do you think?" Lord Taishian asked. "Do you still remember that group?" Hua Qingshan asked. "There was a group that caused turmoil hundreds of years ago, then disappeared completely from the 3,000 realms of the Great Path." Lord Taishuan's face turned stern. He looked at Hua Qingshan and recalled a powerful force hundreds of years ago. "The hell?" Lord Taishian said with a grim expression. Chapter 1726 Gate of the Hell. Chapter 1726 Gate of the Hell. Just when Yi Futian and the others were planning on visiting the Hidden Land Realm, the cultivators from the Shao clan and the Yuanyang clan brought more news to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Other forces in the Central Emperor Realm encountered the same things as the Academy did. It took people in the Heavenly Mandate Academy by surprise. It seemed like they were wrong the whole time. Could it be that the hidden enemy was not solely targeting the Academy? For that reason, Yi Futian and the others waited for a while instead of setting out right away. Word trickled in that many cultivators of powerful forces in the Central 9 realms either died or disappeared mysteriously. It put the 9 realms in a state of fear and tumult. Losing disciples was not a trivial matter for any top force. No powerful group would tolerate such assault. It was even more outrageous since several forces were attacked at the same time. The mysterious group that vanished before the Great Emperor unified the Divine Prefecture. Was it coming back? The leaders of the top forces in the 9 realms knew more about the hell than ordinary disciples. They even brought in people from outside of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path to help. On the day, a team of cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy hit the road. Different from their original plan, they sent a large number of powerful cultivators directly to the Hidden Land Realm. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was not the only one. It was said that many forces in the 9 realms were heading to the Hidden Land Realm. The hell once existed in the Hidden Land Realm and now reappeared in the 9 realms. Cultivators of all sides were eager to go to the Hidden Land Realm to investigate. Yi Futian and the others immediately felt upon their arrival that the vast field of the hidden land realm was bleak and gloomy. The mountains were barren, and the plains were desolate. Everything was enveloped in darkness. Each of the 9 realms was different. For instance, the solar realm was extremely hot, while the shadow realm was bitterly cold. Ghost Capital City was one of the main cities in the hidden land realm. Magnificent and imposing, many ancient dark-colored buildings towered up inside of the city. It was distinctly different from any other place Futian had been. The clan of the God of Ghost was headquartered in the Ghost Capital City and controlled the large area around the capital. A succession of cultivators from other realms arrived at the Ghost Capital City in recent days. Cultivators in the Ghost Capital City naturally learned about the reason as the news spreading around. The mysterious group Hell from the Hidden Land realm many years ago reappeared and caused plenty of troubles in the 9 realms. The cultivators from the top forces obviously came to inquire into the matter. The clan of the God of Ghost was the most influential group in the Hidden Land realm. The Ghost Capital City, as its capital, might have more information circulating around. Therefore, it was the most desirable destination for many forces. The cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy also came to Ghost Capital City and found a place to settle down temporarily. Their arrival soon attracted people's attention. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was prominent in the 9 realms. Even though they didn't have the same level of influence in the Hidden Land realm as they did in the Heavenly Mandate realm, the cultivators in the Hidden Land realm still knew about their attack on the Shen clan 4 years ago. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was even more renowned than the top forces from the Central Emperor realm, such as the Shen clan. Futian was also a legendary name well known in the 9 realms. Cultivators in the Hidden Land realm heard about him as well. Many people were guessing if Futian was truly as strong and unrivaled as the rumors claimed so. The night was pitch black. Futian was cultivating in the room when he sensed something. He opened his eyes and saw an indistinct figure in the distance. "Which friend is it?" Futian asked, and immediately saw a pale shadow gracefully landed on the roof in front of him. The shadow was faint and indistinct, as though it was not a real person, but a ghost in the moonlight. Wearing a thin white dress, she had long black hair, an elegant figure, and a gorgeous face. She looked like a ghost in the darkness. Is this not her real body? Futian was intrigued. He stepped forward and unleashed invisible energy on her. "I have long heard about your name, and how you defeated Shen Hao from the Shen clan, and built the perfect divine wheel. I came here particularly to catch a glimpse of your regal bearing," the woman said with a smile. "You are indeed a man of elegance and talent. This is quite surprising, as I thought you would be a brawny and domineering guy. Did you come from the clan of the God of Ghost?" Futian asked. She couldn't move so quietly if it were her real body. She probably used a technique unique to the clan of the God of Ghost to project a blurry shadow of her. "I'm Lianqingyi from the clan of the God of Ghost," said the woman. "Lianqingyi," Futian murmured. There was an outstanding cultivator from the clan of the God of Ghost in the God's Relic, whose name was Lian Jiuyo. Maybe she was related to him. "You already knew the intention of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, didn't you?" Futian asked her. "Yes, I do." Lianqingyi nodded. "Can you tell me?" said Futian. "I will tell you everything I know when you come to the clan of the God of Ghost tomorrow," said Lianqingyi. Then, her shadow glided away and disappeared silently. Hua Jiangshan came to Futian after Lianqingyi was gone, said, "Lianqingyi is the goddess of the clan of the God of Ghost. She is an extraordinary cultivator in the middle-level Runhuang Plain, one of the best in the younger generation of the clan of the God of Ghost." Futian nodded. He was curious why Lianqingyi came to him. Was it really possible that she simply wanted to meet him? "I will go to the clan of the God of Ghost tomorrow to see if I can gather any useful information," said Futian. "Okay." Hua Jiangshan nodded. The next day, Futian led a group of people to the God of Ghost Palace, where the clan of the God of Ghost was located. Standing outside of the God of Ghost Palace, Futian gazed into the distance. The magnificent castle far away with black and forbidding walls could almost reach the sky. Some other people moved closer to them at the moment. Futian sensed something and turned around. A strange look flashed across his face when he saw the people coming. Those people's penetrating eyes darted toward Yi Futian like sharp blades with a golden gleam. They were cultivators from the Golden Divine Nation. They also came to Ghost's capital city. The Golden Divine Nation also lost some disciples who were traveling or cultivating outside. It was obvious that the Heavenly Mandate Academy was not the only group the clan of the God of Ghost invited. The tension in the room was incredibly palpable, due to the enmity between the Academy and the Golden Divine Nation. One of the leaders of the delegation of the Golden Divine Nation was especially forceful and frightening. He was a divine general in the Golden Divine Nation, and had met Yi Futian in the battle of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. A dashing young man in his 30s stood next to the divine general. He seemed shrewd and assertive. Gai Qixing, the seventh son of the sovereign of the Golden Divine Nation, stared at Yi Futian with a menacing look. Yi Futian could sense that Gai Qixing was in the middle-level Renhuang plane, with a fourth-order divine wheel. He was not threatened by Gai Qixing at all. Gai Tsong, the sovereign of the Golden Divine Nation, personally visited the Heavenly Mandate Academy when it was established. But they later realized that there was nothing they could do to Yi Futian, and had been keeping a low profile ever since the battle with the Shun clan. Nowadays, neither side would launch an attack recklessly despite mutual hostility. Let's go. Yi Futian glanced at them, turned back, and walked toward the guide sent by the clan of the God of Ghost. The cultivators from the Golden Divine Nation also stepped forward. The clan of the God of Ghost already prepared a banquet in front of a palace. Yi Futian found out that the cultivators from the Sky-Reaching School, Shangxiao Divine Palace, Celestial Worthy Temple, Heavenly Sword Hall, and other groups were all present. Some people showed an interesting look when the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Golden Divine Nation walked in. Many people here knew about their grudges. Yi Futian looked at the seat of the host. It was someone he met the night before, Lian Qingyi. Several cultivators from the clan of the God of Ghost sat behind her. Nevertheless, it was the real Lian Qingyi today instead of her shadow. Please. A cultivator from the clan of the God of Ghost showed Yi Futian and the others to their seats. Lian Qingyi shot a glance at Yi Futian yet didn't say anything. A person asked, "Is everyone here?" The cultivators of the top forces in the 9 realms, who came to Ghost Capital City, were all here. Yes, Lian Qingyi nodded and said, "I invited you here because I know why you came to the Hidden Land realm. Based on the information gathered by the clan of the God of Ghost, the rumors about the once powerful group in the Hidden Land realm are very likely to be true. Your speculations are correct." People's eyes narrowed in concentration. Was it really the mysterious force from years ago? A group that had disappeared for hundreds of years suddenly resurged? If so, what do they want to achieve by assassinating the cultivators of all forces in the 9 realms? A person from the Sky-Reaching School asked Lian Qingyi. It was a question that puzzled everyone. "They want to make you come to the Hidden Land realm," said Lian Qingyi. Her answer astounded the crowd. The hell intentionally lured them to the Hidden Land realm? Why? Several people asked simultaneously. If the hell truly resurrected, shouldn't they develop and expand in secret? Why would they provoke the cultivators in the 9 realms and cause quite a stir? In fact, there has been a deep undercurrent in the Hidden Land realm. A rumor has been spreading for the past few years. Lian Qingyi looked at the crowd and said, "The gate of the hell might have emerged." Gate of the hell? The cultivators' faces grew stern. People of the older generation had heard about the gate of the hell many years ago. If that's true, the hell might make a comeback and fall upon the 9 realms again. Someone asked. Lian Qingyi nodded and replied, "To be honest, they're already back. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1727 Yellow Spring in Jiuyo City. Chapter 1727 Yellow Spring in Jiuyo City, based on folk tales. The Gate of the Hell was the holy land of the hell, and guarded the path to the real hell. The hell might reappear in the 9 realms when the Gate of the Hell opened. Lian Qingyi, did you mean that the Gate of the Hell has appeared but not opened yet? And the hell caused all the troubles in the 9 realms, in order to attract the cultivators here to open the gate of the hell for them? Asked the cultivator from the sky-reaching school. Other people also looked at Lianqingyi. They all interpreted her words the same way. Yes. Lianqingyi nodded and continued. There was news about the gate of the hell circulating in the Hidden Land realm many years ago. The remaining force of the hell suddenly launched a series of attacks in recent days and caused a commotion in the 9 realms. Without a doubt, they wanted to attract the attention of the 9 realms and lure you to the Hidden Land realm. Their goal, as you would expect, is to make the cultivators from the 9 realms to open the gate of the hell for them. Why do people from the hell assume that we would open the gate of the hell for them? Someone from the Golden Divine Nation with a hoarse voice asked. Many people glanced at him and remained expressionless. They thought it was a legit question. Why would they open the gate of the hell for the hell? However, the answer soon became clear to them. Under everyone's watch, the cultivator from the Golden Divine Nation paused for a moment. He ruminated with his head slightly lowered and realized the reason in no time. The fabled gate of the hell might have relics left by the great emperor. How could the cultivators from the 9 realms restrain themselves from exploring if they really found the location of the gate of the hell? Even if they could control themselves, how could they stop the others from doing it? Although they knew the hell intended to take advantage of them, there must be some people in the 9 realms who would be used willingly and happily. Where did the gate of the hell emerge? Someone looked at Lianqingyi and asked. Yellow Spring in Jiuyou City, Lianqingyi answered with a smile. Everyone's face grew solemn. Jiuyou City was an uninviting place in the Hidden Land realm. A notorious city. It had the river of Yellow Spring in the center, where anyone who hadn't reached the Runhuang Plain would certainly die without exception if stepped in. Even a cultivator in the Runhuang Plain would certainly encounter grave dangers inside. Many extraordinary people in the Hidden Land realm went to the Yellow Spring to cultivate. Countless cultivators had been devoured by the Yellow Spring in the past. Yet now the gate of the hell popped up in the Yellow Spring in Jiuyou City. Everybody of the older generation was familiar with Jiuyou City, one of the most famous places in the Hidden Land realm. Hua Jiangshan used voice transmission to explain it to Yi Futian, who didn't know much about the Hidden Land realm. Jiuyou City didn't belong to any group in the Hidden Land realm. It was an infamously chaotic place where no good man would step foot in. Nevertheless, Jiuyou City had raised a number of superb cultivators. Many forces in the Hidden Land realm would send young, promising disciples to Jiuyou City for a while. The cultivation practice in the Hidden Land realm was cruel and ruthless. They selected talents through brutal trial and elimination. Death was common and insignificant. Why didn't we hear about this before? Someone stared at Lianqingyi and asked. They couldn't tell if what Lianqingyi said was completely true. The top forces in the Hidden Land realm all wanted to explore the gate of the hell ever since it emerged again. Why would they leak the news and let you know? The rumors were circulating in a small circle in the Hidden Land realm, as only a small group of people are powerful enough to learn about it. How could it reach you? Lianqingyi cracked a smile. According to you, we would never know about this if the hell didn't lure us to the Hidden Land realm, someone said. Lianqingyi gave a tacit admission. It probably can't stay hidden now after the tumult broke out. In recent days, many powerful cultivators are already heading to Jiuyou City as information flying out of there. Before long, Jiuyou City will draw the attention of the entire Hidden Land realm, said Lianqingyi. The crowd was silent upon hearing Lianqingyi's words. Based on what she said, the news about the gate of the hell would soon spread around. They should leave for Jiuyou City right away. You don't need to worry. As far as I know, even though the people in Jiuyou City knew about the gate of the hell, they haven't found the exact location yet. Things won't move at such a rapid pace. It's a rare opportunity for you to gather here. And the clan of the God of Ghost would like to perform the duties of a host. Lianqingyi seemed to see through people's minds. She raised her glass and spoke to the crowd with a smile. People nodded. Although many guests were more senior than Lianqingyi, they came to the clan of the God of Ghost and were welcomed by its goddess. They were glad to respect the host's wishes. Renhuangyi, can I go to study and cultivate in the Heavenly Mandate Academy if the chance arises in the future? Lian Qingyi raised her glass again. How modest you are. People in the Heavenly Mandate Academy would be lucky to learn from you if you are willing to visit us. Yi Futian replied politely. Lian Qingyi was in the middle-level Renhuang Plain. Cultivators in this level were already big fish in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, even though they might not be prominent in supreme forces. Only a small group of people reached this level. They were at the very top considering the vast population of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. This small group of people had the strongest voice and the ultimate say in the entire world. After all, only a few could stand at the top of the pyramid. Lian Qingyi smiled and exchanged polite remarks with the leaders of other groups. The banquet was not exactly exciting, but at least Lian Qingyi was courteous enough. Some people excused themselves after a few rounds of toast. Lian Qingyi didn't stop them from leaving. She nodded slightly and said, Juyo City is quite famous in the Hidden Land realm. I won't need to guide the way as I'm sure you can find it without trouble. Besides, I suppose you will meet other groups from the 9 realms in Juyo City. One by one, people stood up and asked to leave. Yi Futian and the others from the Heavenly Mandate Academy also left the banquet without bothering the host any longer. They had to go to Juyo City, no matter what the hell planned to do. The disciples of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were killed by people from the hell. It was not something that could be easily let go. However, the remaining members of the hell most likely went into hiding after its demise. It would be very difficult to uncover them if they didn't expose themselves first. People left the banquet one after the other. Soon, Lian Qingyi was the only one that remained in her seat. A blurry figure became visible behind her and slowly took shape. The man was tall and mysterious in a black robe. How did it go? The man asked. His voice was deep and hoarse. Yi Futian was the one who solved the mystery of God's relic years ago. Lian Juyo was one of the witnesses there. It's not a secret that Yi Futian attained the God's inheritance. He is undoubtedly powerful, yet surprisingly humble and easygoing. She gazed into the distance and murmured, It depends on luck whether he could open the gate of the hell or not. So far, she couldn't accurately gauge Yi Futian's ability from simple conversations and brief observation. You should lead a group and set off as well, said the black-robed man. He then became blurry again and vanished into thin air. Juyo City in the Hidden Land realm was also called a city of chaos, city of barbarity, and city of death. It was famous enough to be the best-known city in the entire Hidden Land realm. After all, the other capitals were controlled by the supreme forces in the Hidden Land realm. Yet Juyo City was not in the hands of any particular overlord. It was a labyrinth of forces and groups. These forces rose and fell at a fast pace. Resting on a high mountain, the castles in Juyo City almost seemed to be built in midair. The yellow spring split the city into 2 halves. Juyo City had been exceedingly busy these days. As the rumor spreading around the Hidden Land realm, countless cultivators headed to Juyo City. Even people from supreme forces in other realms arrived at Juyo City. For instance, it was alleged that cultivators of the Nantian Divine Kingdom and the Shun clan in the Central Emperor realm were already here. In addition, the ravishing princess of the Nantian Divine Kingdom was also in Juyo City. Right now, a woman with breathtaking beauty was sitting in the Lingquan Tavern high up in Juyo City. She could enjoy the magnificent view of the bottomless chasm from her seat on the cliff. Buildings were perched on several terraces of the cliff. Cultivators strolled around with ease while the yellow spring roared below. People in other taverns on the cliff all looked up to catch a glimpse of the woman sitting on the edge of the Lingquan Tavern. Her gorgeous face made many people's eyes blaze. Sinful thoughts flashed through some people's minds as they saw the only daughter of Emperor Nan and Empress Luo of the Nantian Divine Kingdom appeared in this chaotic place. After all, there were many evil cultivators in Juyo City. Princess, would you like me to? An old man behind Nan Luoshan said in a low voice with a menacing look in his eyes. Even though he was standing still, nothing happened around could evade his detection. It's not necessary, Nan Luoshan replied. She didn't come here to cause trouble, and it was impossible to escape from people's stares. Princess Luoshan. At the moment, A man with a trim figure strode toward them from outside of the tavern. He hovered in the air and looked at Nan Luotian asked, "Is Princess Luotian curious about the emergence of the Gate of the Hell as well?" The man speaking was Shun Hao from the Shun clan. The cultivators of the Shun clan arrived too. "I'm here to have a look." Nan Luotian shot a casual glance at Shun Hao. Shun Hao nodded slightly and said, "As far as I know, the forces around the Hidden Land realm and the 9 realms are all here now. Jiuyo City is a complicated place where good people and bad people mix up together. Princess Luotian, please be careful." "Thank you," Nan Luotian responded monotonously. Shun Hao ended the conversation and walked toward the tavern, as he sensed that Nan Luotian had no intention of inviting him to join her. A man in his position couldn't possibly pester her shamelessly. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." Chapter 1728 Asking for Pointers. Chapter 1728 Asking for Pointers. The cultivators of Nantian Divine Kingdom and the Shun clan appeared in the same inn. This caused a huge uproar in the surrounding districts in Jiuyo City. Many cultivators of Jiuyo City came over to catch a glimpse of these top figures from other realms. After seeing Nan Luotian, many people were astonished by her peerless beauty that could cause nations and cities to fall. At least, they had not seen anyone with a face more beautiful than hers. Nan Luotian's temperament was also extraordinary. However, not long after, in another place, another stunning beauty appeared. Word of her identity was very quickly spread around. She was the goddess of the Shadow Realm's Yuwa Divine Palace, Changxi. Above the Yellow Spring, at the top of a peak, similarly, in a large inn, a group of silhouettes arrived. They sat off to one side and enjoyed the scenery. Yi Futian stood at the edge of the inn. He gazed down at the Yellow Spring below, as well as the layered districts aligning the 10,000 zhang-tall cliff. This scenery gave off a different type of beauty. It was very majestic and felt grand. In the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, there are countless distinguished figures. In this current generation, among the women, Nan Luotian is without equal. Goddess Changxi might be the only person that can be compared with her, said someone not far from Yi Futian. Their gazes were staring off in the opposite direction. From where they were, they could faintly make out an absolutely stunning silhouette. Yi Futian noticed the discussion of the people around him. He turned to look in the opposite direction, and also saw that across the Yellow Spring, in the inn opposite of the one he was in, a woman who was like a goddess was sitting there quietly. It was as though she was not of this world. It was somewhat of a coincidence, Yi Futian thought to himself. However, this area was the central district of the 9-state city. The view here was also the best, so encountering her here was not out of the ordinary. I have heard that after goddess Xiao Muyu of the Xiao clan in the Central Emperor realm was proclaimed a goddess after reaching the Renhuang plain, she is now already not inferior to Nan Luotian and Changxi, someone said. I would want to have a look at her. She should be coming, right? Someone said with a laugh. Yi Futian listened quietly. He never imagined that after being proclaimed a goddess, Muyu's fame had even reached the Hidden Land realm. Speaking of Xiao Muyu, there is another person who needs to be mentioned. Rumor has it that her achievements are all due to one person, another person said. The crowd paused for a moment. They had all heard about this. Currently, among the younger generation of the 9 realms, aside from Yi Futian, no one else had greater levels of fame. It is not just Xiao Muyu. Currently, the many cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy are all being cultivated by him. Is this person truly so incredible? Someone asked. Yi Futian's fame was too great. A person who had just reached the Renhuang plain should not have such levels of fame. He sounded too legendary. After all, this was the Hidden Land realm. News of him had all come from other realms. Hence, they felt somewhat distant towards this news, as though they were listening to tales of legends. Rumor has it that this person has a head of silver hair. When he appears, he is followed by divine signs. Even his appearance is handsome, and will make women fall for him at first sight. Another voice continued. Among Yi Futian's group, Many people were looking at Yi Futian, as they revealed faint smiles. Yi Futian stood there quietly, gazing into the distance. He thought to himself that most people in the world still had discerning eyes. At that moment, a group of silhouettes headed in this direction. The leader had a stunning appearance that made others want to succumb to her at first glance. She had an intelligent smile, and she looked ahead with her beautiful eyes. She seemed to have walked out of a painting. Many people were astonished. However, the people in this inn discovered that this woman was actually heading towards them. They could not help but reveal strange looks. She was the goddess of Yuehua Divine Palace Changxi. She walked over through the air. She wore a faint smile on her face that made their spirits leave their bodies. Who is she looking at? Many people were wondering. The gazes of the people around here all shifted towards the inn. Who was she looking for in there? The people in the inn also made sideways glances. They watched as Changxi walked step by step towards the edge of the inn. She stood in midair and looked at the white-haired silhouette that stood there. She smiled and said, "I never imagined that I would encounter Ren Huangyi here." All gazes landed on Yi Futian. With his white clothes and white hair, he looked handsome and cool. Changxi from Yuehua Divine Palace had personally come here to greet him, and she called him Ren Huangyi. Who this person was did not need to be elaborated upon. Yi Futian. He had also come here, and he was actually right here. He must have overheard the conversations that the people here were having. Goddess Changxi, I assume you have been well? Yi Futian greeted with a faint smile. Ren Huangyi, aren't you going to invite me for a drink? Changxi said with a grin on her face. Each smile and grin of hers bore extraordinary charm. She was the goddess of Yuehua Divine Palace. Her temperament was that of an ice queen. However, before Yi Futian, she gave off the feeling of a spring breeze. It was as though her icy temperament had been melted away. Would goddess honor me with a drink? Yi Futian asked. It is my honor to be invited by Ren Huangyi, Changxi replied. Please, Yi Futian said as he extended his hand in an inviting gesture. Changxi stepped forward and entered the inn, sitting down at Yi Futian's table. The two of them laughed and chatted, causing many people to have the same thought. These two people were sitting together like peerless lovers. Were they together? If so, this would make for a good fairy tale. In the opposite direction, Nan Luotian, as well as Shun Hao, naturally also saw Yi Futian. The two of them were not sitting together, but their gazes were directed towards Yi Futian. Nan Luotian was somewhat curious about Yi Futian. Back then, when she was in Tianshan Academy, she had met Yi Futian before. At that time, no one knew what Yi Futian was doing in Tianshan Academy. However, later on, everyone realized that Yi Futian had cultivated many flawless divine will renhuangs when he was there. Some examples were Do Zhao from Do tribe, and Xiao Muyu from the Xiao clan. As for when Yi Futian later headed to the Shen clan, even her father and mother were quite shocked when they heard about it. Her father even claimed that Yi Futian was the most monstrous person to appear in the divine prefectures after they had been unified. Yi Futian would be able to change an era. From this, one could imagine how high a praise he was giving to Yi Futian. As for Shun Hao, one could imagine how he felt about Yi Futian. His gaze was extremely chilly. Although he had many thoughts in his mind, he sat there quietly and did not go up to meet Yi Futian. Right then, above the yellow spring, a silhouette suddenly appeared. This person was garbed in a black robe and had extraordinary temperament. However, he gave off an extremely dangerous vibe. He was cruel and overbearing. Might of Ren Huang emanated from his body. When they saw this person appear, the cultivators in Jiuyo City recognized who he was. He is Du Yuan, disciple of Evil Emperor. Evil Emperor was a mighty figure at the top of Jiuyo City. He was in existence at the upper-level Renhuang Plain. This Du Yuan was one of the most outstanding of Evil Emperor's disciples. He was in existence that would most likely surpass Evil Emperor himself. He had proven his way and reached the Renhuang Plain in less than 100 years. Currently, he already had a second-tier divine wheel. What was Evil Emperor's disciple, Du Yuan, doing here? He seemed to be facing the direction of the inn in which Yi Futian and Changxi were at. Yi Futian and Changxi were still casually chatting. They ignored the existence of the other party. In reality, with their identities, There weren't many people that they needed to worry about. Although Du Yuan was a renhuang, he was not worthy of their attention. I, Du Yuan from Juyo City, have intentionally come to ask a few pointers from Renhuang Yi, Du Yuan said. Many people revealed strange looks when they heard his words. What was Du Yuan's intention? Was this a challenge? However, Du Yuan's tone was very polite. It seemed that he truly was asking for pointers. Yi Futian's fame was the genuine article. Moreover, Yi Futian had led an army into the Shen clan and had defeated Shen Hao. Even if the members of the Hidden Land realm had not witnessed it themselves, they were not so foolish as to doubt Yi Futian's credibility. Even goddess Xiao Muyu from Xiao clan was willing to be his disciple. Although Du Yuan was a cultivator with a second-tier divine wheel, it was impossible for him to be a match for Yi Futian. Everyone was aware of this point. Du Yuan certainly also knew about this. Hence, if it was a challenge, even though Du Yuan was a renhuang, he was unqualified to challenge Yi Futian. It was more likely that he had truly come to ask for pointers. As a disciple of the evil emperor, it was praiseworthy for Du Yuan to set aside his pride and ask for pointers from a renhuang that was the same generation as he was. After all, in Juyo City, Du Yuan was also famous. Only now did Yi Futian and Changxi turned to look at Du Yuan. A powerful aura flowed out of Du Yuan's body. They could clearly sense that the other party had a second-tier divine wheel. What do you wish to know? Yi Futian asked calmly. Before this, he had looked up to people at the Renhuang Plain. However, after he had proven his way and reached the Renhuang Plain himself, his mentality naturally also changed accordingly. Now, even if he was against an upper-level renhuang, he would still be very calm. People at the Renhuang Plain, like Du Yuan, already could not stir up his emotions. I have long heard of Renhuang Ye's name. I wish to ask Renhuang Yi for a few pointers through actual combat to see the difference between us, Du Yuan explained. Yi Futian was the possessor of a flawless divine wheel, and was considered the most outstanding figure of their generation. To be able to battle against Yi Futian was an opportunity that was extremely hard to come across. Of course, Du Yuan would certainly lose, but that was not important. Yi Futian's gaze landed on the white-robed swordsman. He smiled and said, Wuxian, after having proven your way, you have yet to have the chance to experience actual combat. How about you give it a try? It had not been long since Yi Wuxian had broken through to the next plane. He had always been in the academy, and had yet to have the opportunity to experience his own abilities as a renhuang. He did not have actual combat experience. All right. Yi Wuxian nodded his head and stood up. Yi Futian glanced sideways at Du Yuan and said, My friend has just broken through the next plane. Why don't you spar with him? All right. Du Yuan nodded his head. He did not underestimate his opponent at all, just because Yi Futian had mentioned that his friend had just broken through to the next plane. Du Yuan knew about the battle with the Shen clan. Yi Futian's group of first-tier divine will cultivators had swept away the lower-level renhuangs of the Shen clan. They had utterly dominated their opponents. Since Yi Wuxian was a good friend of Yi Futian, he would certainly also be very powerful. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.